and I'm studying music education, and I picked some of the terms that I thought were important and I didn't really know. So yeah, the first one I have is a 504 plan, and it is a plan for students with disabilities to help remove learning barriers that they might have. They don't necessarily need to have an IEP or be in a special education program. It just helps them remove some of those learning barriers. An example, my younger sibling's trying to get a 504 plan because they have ADHD, and it really helps them if they're able to listen to music during class. But other times, students need a few extra days on assignments and stuff like that. And it just really helps students have that least restrictive environment, since they're usually able to stay in general education programs. It is important for educators to know because 504 plans are pretty common, and I've heard a lot of success stories, and they really do help students not be in special education programs, and they really do help a lot of students, and they need to be respectful of that and understand that they have those plans for a reason. Next, I have extended school year service. Basically, this is a program for students who typically regress during the summer, and they can work with the students to help retain some of those skills that they might typically lose over the break. So for example, if a student really struggles with reading, and they during the summer, they regress and they start to forget what they've learned over the year, they can have this program where they're able to work with somebody who can help them retain that skill. And it's important to know that it focuses strictly on their IEP, and they're not trying to teach them new skills, they're just retaining what they already know. So educators need to know about this because they need to know that their students aren't learning new things, they're just retaining what they knew. And sometimes students don't always qualify for it, and so educators need to be aware that it's not a fault on them if students don't retain what they have taught them. Sometimes things just don't work out, and it's not a fault on the educators, and we're already pretty self-critical, we don't need to be more self-critical. Next, I have the Individualized Family Service Plan, and this is a plan that is for families who have a child or infant or toddler who has a significant developmental delay or a known disability. And the plan specifically works with the family, not just the child. An example, I have a cousin who was adopted, and they found out he has hearing loss, so they have someone who comes to the house and helps my aunt and uncle learn how to help teach my cousin basically how to talk and how to communicate and different sounding words. There's a lot of weird things with it. It's pretty cool, but it helps them teach their child, but also make sure that everything is working together with the whole family and that their child has a place that they can be, Educators need to know about this, since typically if a child does have this, or a family does have this plan, those strategies are probably going to be implemented in their IEP, and so educators need to know that the plans that the parents or guardians are talking about aren't coming out of nowhere. They have this plan that they've been working on for 5-6 years, and that's what they're trying to implement in their IEP. So, important to know. Next, we have the Office of Civil Rights. I didn't know what this was, but it helps just make sure there's equal access to education for everybody. They make sure that the 504 plans are enforced and deal with any complaints of discrimination. If an educator was to see a other colleague discriminating against a student with a disability, the educator could report that to the Office of Civil Rights. Educators need to know about that for that example, or they can help students report complaints of discrimination. It's important that our students don't feel like they're being discriminated against, and that's something that I think is really important. Last, we have prior written notice. This is a it's a letter that the school sends to the parents or guardians if there is a change or a refusal of the student's IEP. And they need, if anytime a parent requests something for an evaluation or whatever, the school needs to give that written notice. So if a student typically works with somebody one-on-one every other day, and that educator is going to be out of town, the student needs to send that written notice to the parents or guardians saying, hey, we know this is typically the plan, we can't do it this week, she's out of town. They can't just not do it without the parents knowing. Educators need to know about this because they're typically the ones implementing the things in the IEP, and they can't just change things or remove or not do something based off of their best judgment. They need to give that notice, and it can't be something that's last minute. So that's why it's important.